Hello, my name is Junon Blancas Cruz, and I will be presenting my second evidence: cultural appropriation, the conflict between big fashion houses and local artisans. This is a page from the New York Times, and I wanted to show this in order to illustrate how cultural appropriation in fashion is a trending and ongoing debate that has caused discussions to arise. So, this is one of the main reasons why I chose it. Now, let's begin. For years, there has been a problem with intellectual theft, plagiarism, and authors' rights. Nowadays, the term used to describe these robberies is cultural appropriation. Janet Rogers defines this concept as when one person from one culture takes culturally distinct items, the aesthetics, or spiritual practices from another culture and mimics them. They adopt it as their own, without consent, permission, or any cultural relationship to the object. This unethical practice occurs in numerous fields. However, this work will focus on fashion. Traditional cultural expressions deal with design issues that are directly related to the fashion field. Lee 2019. This is commonly seen when a famous designer uses traditional techniques from another region in his collection, taking and leaving behind the historical and cultural value. Moving on to some data. In 2017, the World Intellectual Property Organization reunited 189 countries to discuss cultural appropriation matters, since it was now considered a need for a global discussion on the protection of traditional knowledge. According to WIPO's survey data, 64% of young people agree that cultural appropriation is a problem in the United States. Nonetheless, while doing the previous research for this work, I was surprised by the need for more statistics regarding this trending topic. Celia Lee mentions in her paper, Cultural Appropriation in Contemporary Fashion, the fact that very few proper research and investigations on fashion cultural appropriation have been done. Apart from the popular diffusion itself, the academic approach to cultural appropriation has been limited to the field of research on some cultural studies, laws, and institutions on intellectual property rights and social movements. Thus, I consider that in order to understand and embrace the problem, more efforts toward research are needed. Now, I will present a geocultural analysis. Firstly, globalization. One of the main causes, a root one. Nowadays, trends travel fastly due to the internet and social media. The discovery of cultural niches is a result. Thanks to these communication networks, people from all over the world get to know traditions, artistic manifestation, artisan techniques, etc. When we add industrialization, that is defined as the large-scale introduction of manufacturing, advanced technical enterprises, and other productive economic activity into an area, and we mix it with an immense trade of network where replication, inspiration, and plagiarism become inevitable. Following, capitalism, a powerful dynamic that controls how the world works. The majority of fashion houses are owned by global corporations, with a huge impact on the global economy. This gives brands an enormous shield and power that allows them to keep up with non-ethical practices, such as cheap labor, and the topic of this work, cultural appropriation. Tradition and beliefs. Although my chosen topic doesn't focus on a specific religion or belief system, these elements are present throughout the challenge. Many of the controversies seen on fashion shows or designer collections have to do with the fact that designers use religious elements simply because of their aesthetic. People who practice a religion have expressed their outrage, interpreting this as a disrespectful and minimizing action. Thus, in order to prevent these conflicts, fashion brands should be educated on religious symbols and their history in order to avoid mistreatment towards different groups. After all of this, I will now present my proposed solution. The type of solution I'm proposing focuses on the processes and regulations brands will have to adhere to follow the principle of solidarity consumption. Now, if a fashion house wants to use traditional technique or tradition from another country, the designer will have the obligation to either travel to the origin country or meet with specialized native people who can teach him and capacitate him. Moreover, brands will have to brands will have to install workshops in their localities in order to provide jobs for the nationals. Following, a transparent and fair payment will be provided to the native people, with organizations like Fairtrade International and the World Bank. Finally, the artisans that collaborated will be recognized and credited throughout the launching and selling process of the fashion collection. The objective of this is to promote and regulate a respectful cultural exchange, where national heritage is honored and credited, while the native people enjoy the benefits of its culture, being celebrated by big established corporations, as well as to allow designers and people from the fashion industry to expand their knowledge and create a truly diverse industry with dignity and cherish for every actor in the sector. Now, on to the implementation. To execute this idea, a collaboration between intergovernmental organizations and brands will be needed. A treaty created by the World Trade Organization, together with the World Intellectual Property Organization and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, where the previously mentioned conditions would be established, in conjunction with penalties resulting in the lack of compliance with these agreements. This will generate social pressure for brands to sign a treaty and commit themselves to the objective. Finally, because of the immense social attention drawn to this issue, brands will want to keep a good public image that will allow them to keep up with their customers and economic operation. What are the desirable outcomes? Firstly, face-to-face encounters between fashion job holders and native people dedicated to exercising and preserving their traditions. Brands dedicated to a detailed investigation and cultural analysis when launching new collections. Consumers who are aware of what is behind the creative decisions of brands, together with a knowledge of the history and heritage behind their clothing items. Created collaboration between brands and native people, and economical remuneration that will allow native people to continue the preservation of their tradition while having a dignified living. Next, we have the stakeholders. Firstly, we have the intergovernmental organizations, such as the WTC and WIPO previously mentioned. They are regulatory organs with an influence on political and economical subjects. We have as well multinational corporations, the owners of big fashion brands. They operate in distinct countries, thus, they need permission and contracts. And in my opinion, the key actor, consumers. They are in charge of soliciting the desired goods and services according to their needs and preferences. Fashion houses depend on consumers' demand in order to keep operating. As a consequence, consumers have the power to request ethical practices and specification on the products. Type of resources. The design of a 3D by itself doesn't require a big amount of economic resources. I find that what it is needed for this proposal is, firstly and most importantly, international cooperation, as well as knowledge, because we're talking about a multicultural exchange that is looking for ethical practices that will allow further achievements. Thus, we have to really share this. As an illustration of how this is a possible solution, I put this example. The Dior Cruise Collection 2024. Now, this was launched in May 2013. What the fashion house Dior did for this collection was to work in Mexico and together with local artisans. They proceeded to invite these artisans to the fashion show and they credited them in all of the press and in the catalog. Moreover, the models used for the runway were Mexican. So this is a great example of a respectful approach when an international brand wants to collaborate with a local culture. In conclusion, why is it important to consider the cultural aspects of an issue? Culture is a fundamental element of society, and it is intrinsic to heritage. I have three main points, starting with respect. When a topic is addressed or there is planning for a project, people ought to act in the most proper and reverent manner. Considering culture is essential to show the importance of every stakeholder and a genuine interest in the outcome of the project. When people feel listened to, considered, and respected, the collaboration will pleasantly emerge. Number two, acknowledge our past. We are the results of thousands of generations who have found their way in this world through discoveries and exploration. Our culture is a present reminder of that legacy, and it deserves to be recognized and honored. In the end, we have survived and evolved thanks to our ancestors' past. Lastly, rescue, preserve, and generate more knowledge. By the same token, I believe that by recognizing and embracing our cultural heritage, we are able to produce more of it, become better versions of ourselves by transforming our past knowledge into innovative goods. More importantly, saving and actively seeking to pass this knowledge on for generations. What was my role during this proposal? The position I took was a mediator. I don't believe there are heroes and villains in this narrative. Everyone is working and protecting what they know. However, this respectful multicultural gaze was missing. This is the reason why I propose a treaty that would regulate these practices in order for everyone to win and keep their rights guaranteed and protected. Lastly, what is my role as a professional or a responsible citizen in a culturally globalized world? I really like this question because it arises enthusiasm in me. My role as a privileged studied woman is to share knowledge with others, use my values and ethics to mediate, and always look for the best outcome for every stakeholder. And finally, promote an environment of respect where every person enjoys their rights and a dignified life that allows them and us to collaborate and progress by exchanging and diversifying our diversity. I would like to finish with this quote from Dior's fashion designer and creative director Maria Gracia. I think fashion can do a lot. Fashion is very popular, so it can help broadcast a message and reach a new generation. Thank you.